Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk Trackmania. We are back once again. It is episode number 25 and it is the last episode of 2020. 2020 has been the year of Let's Talk Trackmania, has been the year of Trackmania 2020, and we are happy to bring to you once again another week's worth of Trackmania talking. I'm your host TM Scotsman. I'm joined once again by the lovely, always beautiful Mickey Mouse shirt wearing LuckersTurbo to either my left or right. And gladly we are joined once again by Erwin on the back sides of things. He is slacking no longer. He is joining back with us once again. But no, happy to have him back with us, all recovered and ready to go for today's episode. It is Tuesday, it is Talking Trackmania time once again. But I would be remiss, as I was last week, without mentioning, of course, that this podcast, as always, is brought to you by esac.gg. Would remind everyone for any upcoming and current tournaments, such as the Velocity Team Cup and the upcoming full speed competitions, they will be hosted through the esac.gg service, and I'd advise you guys to check it out. Also, if you're interested in any future tournaments, you want to organise some of your own, or you want to participate in something like the competitive open map pool, for example, map submissions are still open until the 24th, and that is, as I check my calendar, 2 days from now. Christmas Eve is around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. Christmas Day is around the corner. I hope you're all feeling festive. As you can see, I am. Got my Grinch jumper on. Turbo's rocking the Let's Talk Trackmania tradition of the Mickey Mouse, making sure at least one of us is representing properly. But before I run out of breath, the most important question, as always, of the week is how's Turbo?
Yeah, I'm good. Just got interrupted by my mother, and I was like,
"Hi, Mum."
I mean, she's already gone because I was like, yo, I have a podcast. Yes, goodbye. But yeah, I'm doing good. Finished studying for today. Only have some lectures to go until Christmas is coming up. Also getting a little bit more into Christmas, would I have to say. Looking at the date, it is the 22nd of December. I mean, we are closing in, and also Let's Talk Trackmania is coming to an end this year because next week we are skipping, and this means that this is the last episode of 2020. But hey, before I really go into a different topic here, I'm doing very, very well. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing spectacular. Only just home. I'm fresh and ready, though, to continue with another week's worth of Trackmania talking. I'm in a good mood. I'm happy.
Same, actually.
And I could not be joined by better company in the shape of you and, of course, Erwin in the background. We need to get Erwin in some sort of podcast again at some point. We've done that in the SAC. I'll bully him into it at some point next year. But yeah, of course, this week, as exactly Turbo says, is the last episode of 2020 for Let's Talk Trackmania. Now, not in any way to say that this is the last episode of Let's Talk Trackmania. Let's not be too rash in saying that or anything as to the sort. Simply the last episode of this year, taking a well-earned break, or at least I'll say a well-earned break, although all I do is talk shit every week. Well-earned break for those who actually do work on the podcast. And we will be skipping next week, and we will be back, checks date, once again on the 5th of... I was about to say the 5th of December there. The 5th of January 2021, ladies and gentlemen.
That sounds so weird.
We are a week and 2 days away from the turn of the new year. That is both terrifying and that is both exciting, I would say, at the same time. I think you would agree with me there. But yeah, since we have our last opportunity to chat shit in 2020, we could only, of course, use it to the max in talking about what's happened over 2020, recapping from start to finish as much as our old and crippled memories, or at least in my case, since I'm nearly at retirement age. What our old and crippled memories remember of 2020, and what we think has been some of the defining moments and most important moments of this year. And also, first of all, of course, bringing to you the most recent news and the developments regarding Trackmania Grandleague, as that will, of course, be one of the premier moments of 2021. So I think it's only safe to start off with a look forward to 2021, a look into what we can perhaps expect. And we've been given a bit of an inkling as to what to expect in 2021, albeit specifically from Trackmania Grandleague. And we recently received news, Turbo, regarding some changes of next season.
Yeah, so the Trackmania Grandleague season 2021 winter edition, I think I got this kind of right, has been announced. I mean, it was already announced in the rulebook, but now we have it black on white. has been announced on the 18th of December. And the first step will be the 24th of January. So only 1 month away, actually. This is like 4 weeks. This is like, I'm not even like done with 2020. And then there's already, in 4 weeks, we have the Trackmania Grandleague starting again, the third season of that. And also we have new players in there. But we have some changes in that. So the schedule is the same with Trackmania Grandleague being on Sundays and at 8 p.m. And the OGL will also be on Saturday, so 6 days after that. So if we have step 1, January 24th from Trackmania Grandleague, we have from the OGL, we have the step 6 days later, the first one, so at the 30th of January. So that is the old news, but we will come with some changes in there. As we have the goal here is to have shorter maps, because the maps were actually feeling a lot longer this season, where we had maps that almost exceeded 1 minute 30 from a round, but they want to change that. They want to go to something like 110 for a flying lap. Also, regular laps won't change, but I mean, it's a little bit easier to learn. And they also included spicy prize pool in here, bringing back the 100 euro rule for winning in the TMGL regular season, and also 2,500 euro for the Open Grand League top 3. So 7,500 euro for all players of the top 3. If I recall that, of course, correctly, but I think that every one of those 3 players will go home with some money. So this is a pretty huge prize pool, when I can say so myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was one of the main points of what was coming back with this season. Coming back with this season and kind of having a few changes going into the Open Grand League and such was the changing of the prize pool structure. Now, the one question which I don't believe has been answered is if, say, for example, the total prize pool of last season was 15,000, and that was split between the top of Trackmania Grand League just simply from positions. It's a question of, is this going to mean that an extra 2,500 is getting added, and the 100 per map per step is going to be added then, so we'll have an overall higher prize pool? Or does this mean that amount is then getting taken away from the total pot, say the 15,000? Say, well, we have 12,500 going towards Trackmania Grand League and 2,500 going to Open Grand League, for example. That's a question I'm kind of looking to have answered here. To see, how they're actually going to do the prize pool structure in general, but we'll get that information when we get the overall rule set for Trackmania Grand League, which should be coming out, I'd imagine, within the next few weeks. But exciting additions, I must say, specifically the 2,500 for Open Grand League. That was things that a lot of people were then looking for and asking for, as they felt like a lot of the effort going into Open Grand League merited some sort of numerical award, when, of course, participation in Trackmania Grand League was not guaranteed just simply through their performance. So definitely, I think it's a step in the right direction for Open Grand League, another motivation for some of the players who will be out there to be putting in their best efforts and to be getting the most out of the effort put in, of course. But one thing also, which I think, the other part of that, which is the most important part, of course, as well, is the 100 euro rule. And for any who were not familiar with that, it wasn't last season, the season before. You would get 100 euros if you managed to finish a map in first place. So per step, there would be 600 euros up for grabs. So 100 euros for each of the 6 maps for winning any of the 6 maps. It doesn't matter if you're top in points at the end of the 6 maps. It just matters upon winning that said map, and then you take home 100 euros. Any first thoughts on both of these? Of course, the 100 euro rule being re-implemented, and the prize pool addition for Open Grand League being brought in for the first time.
So the 100 euro rule is probably the best thing that they could brought back to that, because in season 2, it really felt like players were not really motivated that much when it came down, when they had like 150 plus points. So with that, players will be motivated, and maybe even if not a track is good and they see it's hard, and maybe they can master the identity very well, that they can still make it there. So the 100 euro rule is definitely something for both the top players and also for the bottom players to say, okay, I'm gonna take some money home here, or I'm just gonna try to do my best here, even though I'm still qualified. So this is probably the best thing they could have brought back to that. And also the 2,500 euro for the Open Grand League. I mean, now it maybe attracts some other people as well to participate in that, to maybe take this one a little bit more serious, because with the Combine, it was pretty hard to actually qualify to the Trackmania Grand League. And I think with that 2,500 euro prize pool, not sure if it's 7,500, if it's 2,500 for the top three, it will be split like 1,500 for first and 800 for second, and then 200 for third or something like that. I don't know if it's for every player or just for the top three, a total of 2,500. But this will definitely create some sort of battles. I mean, for the total top three, I would say. And players will take it more serious. But, I mean, it feels like a little bit that the remaining or the previous three Trackmania Grand League seasons were also like the tests, because we see a combine of all of those things that we've had in the past. Of course, this OGL thing is new now, but we see the 100-year rule back. We see shorter maps. Yeah, okay, we cannot say that, but we had shorter maps in the beta season, to say it like that. So we see a mixture between all of that, but I think the implementation of the 100-year rule again is pretty good. Anything you would like to add to that, or have I gone over everything?
One thing I would like to add to it now, I would say that this is an overall positive on both fronts. Now, I would like to kind of play devil's advocate in this and, bring another side to this discussion. I think the 100 euro rule is good for those who are going to be putting the effort into, to be capable of getting this. I think it's good for players who may not be capable of reaching playoffs to kind of specialise on a map or two and get themselves something from Trackmania Grand League besides experience. But let me bring another kind of point to this now. One of the things we are not seeing being changed for this season is the ever controversial point system, the points loss system. Now, that will not be changing. Now, one of the problems that this then highlighted was that when you're watching Trackmania Grand League, well, when you're watching, think you're watching a tournament in general, a Trackmania tournament in general, you would then be normally focusing on who is then the best performers, who's going to be winning the rounds, who's going to be winning the match. That's who you would primarily be performing on. You might pick up on someone that's crashed just to see, they're far behind, and kind of, amplify the fact that they've crashed, make sure everyone realizes it and everything like that. Now, the problem in Trackmania Grand League is primarily, as at least from a casting point of view, and also just generally from a casual interest point of view, the interest is not centered around the fight for first place. The interest is primarily centered around the fight for 8th place, the fight for the safe places, which is the top 8 compared to the bottom 8. The top 8 being safe and retaining your points, the bottom 8 losing either part or all of your points. Now, the problem that I think the 100 euro rule brings into this and adds back to this is that not only are you going to have casters being split between what they feel they should be watching. Should they be watching who's going to be taking home 100 euros? Should they be watching who's going to be safe, who's going to be in or out of the points? Now, the problem with that situation is it devalues. Well, not necessarily devalues. I think that's a poor word to use. But if you think of it this way, you're adding 100 euros as a prize pool for, doing well in these maps. Now, the problem is with this is that most of the people might not be watching who gets first place in the map, because they're watching who's 8th or 9th. Or conversely, people might not be watching who gets 8th or 9th, so they might not be catching these little, nail-biting battles. And at the end, they might just be focusing on who's up in front. So I think this splits the attention in a little bit of a bad way. So I think that's the problem with a combination of incentivizing a great result, as in getting first, and also incentivizing two battles. You're incentivizing one with a carrot, as in if you get first place, you will get this. You're incentivizing another with the stick, as in if you do not get 8th place, you will get this. And you can't watch both of them at the same time.
True.
That's the problem I have with that.
Yeah, I see. But I mean, to like try to have a little bit of a discussion. Yeah, I think with 16 casters, this is not the thing that should go for everyone, because with this casting system, we have people, let's say I'll cast Pack. I'm not sure where I'm casting in, so organizations hit us up in the DMs. I think we are both open for casting Trackmania Grandleague Season 3. I have not...
that's not changing, of course, this season. Just to clarify again, casting situation won't change.
It won't change, right? It won't change.
So still 16 casts.
Yeah, so still 16 casts. And I think with this 16 cast scenario, we have different battles, but also it will be hard to strengthen your argument again. It will be hard for a viewer to understand what is happening, because, well, the question is, why do I watch the competition? I watch it because I would like to see who's winning €100, the battle that I want to focus on. And I'm also watching it because I see, okay, who is getting 8th, 9th, and the battle on that. So it will be hard to really follow this battle as a just normal spectator. So it's really hard to comprehend what is happening, because all of a sudden we have two things going on now. And this was also a problem in season 1 as well. Then you're like, oh, okay, this guy got all of a sudden first, like by 200th of a second, and this decided getting €100 or not, because this is a different taste. Because first and second, first gets 100, second gets nothing. That's the fight you were talking about. And it's good, but also bad on a thing. But I hope that with this €100, that people will be more motivated, and maybe tighter fights will happen, that we have like only small gaps, but we don't know. I mean, maps getting shorter. Maybe with that, I would claim that they get easier, because you have 1 minute 10 to practice instead of 1 minute 30. This is a lot, actually. But I think we're going to see how it works out. It's, I think, the same as the final mode that we've seen for the first time. But also in the final mode, there were made some adjustments that I think very, very, weird, let's say like that. I mean, I could try to explain it, but I think we need 2 or 3 attempts for that. Because, again, the top 8 of the Trackmania Grandleague irregular step ranking will advance into the playoffs. Bless you.
Thank you.
And they will still play in the final mode. But the final mode has been adjusted, and I'm just going to read it out here. Okay. Some rounds may not have been interesting to spectate due to players having too big of a gap to come back to the first player. Okay, that was a long sentence. We decided to bring a new way to win a round that will solve this matter, called win by KO. To win by KO, the first player in the round needs to have a 1.5 second lead during 3 consecutive CPs, bringing a new strategy into each match. So this is probably for every, so that if there's only 8 players left, that the last player who's 1.5 seconds behind will get eliminated when he's 3 consecutive CPs behind. Mm-hmm. Okay. Final 4 was a bit short compared to the other matches. You don't say. For the final 4, only players will now need to win 2 maps instead of 2 rounds to qualify to the final 2. Wait, win 2 maps instead of 2 rounds. To win a map, a player needs to win 2 rounds on that. Huh? That's the same. Wait, what? I'm confused. Can you maybe explain that?
So it looks as if you need to win 2 rounds on 1 map instead of just winning 2 rounds in general.
So, like, that that map will be won. Let's say we have 4 people on there. So we get a maximum of 5 rounds on this map. That everyone has won on this. And then there's a decided round if a player will make it or not. Or
that would make sense, actually. But normally they do 3 rounds per map. But we'll figure more of that out when we get the full rule set, I imagine.
Yeah, I think those are only some ideas, because the sentences were actually a bit weird formulated, if you ask me. It was hard to understand. Also, with the €2,500 prize pool, decided to allocate for the top 3. Does it mean that top 3 will get it, or that top 3 in general will get it? So if there's 7,500 or 2,500, but we're gonna see more about that. It was just a very, very recent events here. But definitely an interesting change. I think it can get super boring with the 1.5 second lead, but we're gonna see that probably. Then players will push or not. But yeah, so those are the changes, and we have one more change in the end, and the Combine has gotten a change as well. It becomes head-to-head now.
Mm-hmm. But just to pick up on the final mode adjustments there, now, I don't remember this ever being talked about, but I've had a wee bit of a kind of, not necessarily a eureka moment, but let me spill my brain out to you. Now, I would propose a new kind of system for the playoffs, right? Now, first of all, I'll address the final mode adjustment. I think, for one, this is nice. It will have some rounds ending earlier, if people just do end up crashing, and the round's already kind of done and gone. The other thing that kind of leads me to think, though, what if, say, Kappa has kind of took a super inside line on 2 checkpoints so that he'll get that 1.5 second lead, and then just jumps to the other side of the track to go into some completely different checkpoint and does, steal that round win when he would have not been 1.5 seconds ahead before. Now, I picture that extremely unlikely to happen, but what are they going to do if it does happen? That very much interests me, because you had that happening in things like PEC. You would have people, cutting to go on to different checkpoints because it resulted in people being eliminated by a time difference. Now, that then led me into thinking, and a completely different playoffs mode. Now, one of the main problems we had with the playoffs mode is we felt that it didn't reward consistent players as much as it rewarded fast players, Like, you had people like Spam who perform well every round after round after round, but they'd still get eliminated first time round just because they didn't have the sheer pace to outmatch people who were risking. Now, let me know whether you think this would be a good idea or not. PEC's format. So the Professional Enduro Cup, if any who are not familiar with it,
best competition.
Yeah, one of my favourite competitions. Now, how this worked is everyone started off at the same point on a multi-lap track. Now, for each checkpoint you passed, there would be a certain time limit for everyone to pass that checkpoint. Say the first checkpoint was like 15 seconds or something like that. And then each checkpoint you pass, the time limit gets shorter. So say 10 seconds, 9 seconds, 8 seconds. So people would gradually get eliminated. Now, the further you go into this, of course, late on, you're getting like 1 second or something like that. So if you've made a mistake, you're gone. So it rewards consistency in the sense that you need to avoid mistakes. You can't just risk every round. However, it results in relatively close fights. You're going to be having people who are, we saw back in PEC days, people were battling onto 0.3 seconds of a gap and just crazy. So close, checkpoint after checkpoint after checkpoint, going blow for blow with each other. And, by definition, it results in close rounds because the people have to be closer, else they'll get eliminated. The rounds don't eventually end up going any longer because the people will be eliminated once the clear winner is then shown. The clear winner will then be shown once they have established a large gap between them and their fellow competitors. For me, this seems like a fantastic way to do this, having the PEC. It's already a multi-lap format, The only thing I could imagine this, well, of course, this is me bringing this into my head in the last minute or two. I imagine it would, through discussion, you would find maybe some positives for negatives. But what do you think of that kind of concept, perhaps?
Well, just when you were talking about PEC, I had very, very beautiful flashbacks. So I definitely agree with you. I fully agree with that. Because I think PEC, despite its being a rounds format, it was giving me as a spectator, because usually I was on the fight for the top 2 or something like that. But it was bringing you a very, very entertaining way to see the tournament, because you see the gap was shrinking from CP to CP till I think 0.2 or 0.3 or 0.4 of a second, something like that. And then we had the big boy battle going on. And then at the first mistake, someone actually is done, but also when you just take a very conservative line and have no speed. But on the other hand, we have seen those things as well. And also, when I was actually playing something else, when I was playing Trackmania OGL Season 1, I was also thinking, oh, what happens when I go into this CP now when I have only like 10 seconds left, but I know that I cannot reach the last CP? And I think some things like that will be banned in the rulebook, but I hope that they will, because they're making the thing very, very, anticlimactic to watch. But on the other hand, it's not like PEC that you have one CP that you have to pass and then the player has to go into there. It has to be 3 consecutive CPs. So that's something else. And I kind of think, I'm not thinking that a player can like land somewhere, drive to 3 CPs, and then the other player won't be faster or something like that. Maybe if they're the rings or something like that, but we don't know. So, I mean, PEC is a good format. Maybe implement that to the Trackmania Grandleague. But I mean, you said already, after like more thinking about that, you probably find pros and cons for both of them.
Yeah, I think it would be an interesting consideration to make. I mean, I don't know how it would work if, they could just copy someone else's format, essentially. If they could just, it's not like True Talent Cup, where that ceased to exist before they started using that same format for their Cup of the Day. So I think it's an interesting consideration, and could they, honestly, I think that would strike a very good balance between the players that are involved, because in the systems before, I mean, it brings in something new, so you're not just seeing rounds mode, which I gathered that Nadeo representatives are getting a little bit sick of. Seeing rounds mode tournament after tournament after tournament. It is a fresh format. It was very well received by those that did play it. And I think it's been away for long enough that people definitely do miss it, for sure.
Yeah.
But on the other side of things, what I meant to say about it is that they would need to talk it over with the PEC admins, I'm assuming, to kind of get the information on whether or not they would be able to just kind of use that format, so to speak. But I think it would strike a very nice balance. You would have people who would if I think of it going into that kind of format myself, would I risk it all to try and get a really good gap early on and try and eliminate people early? Or would I just take it nice and easy, wait for everyone else to make mistakes? Because everything is viable in that format, mistakes are very, very costly, but you still have a chance. It's not like final mode where it was just full risk and whoever survives wins. You have a lot of options in the PEC format, so it's an interesting consideration, I think, and I would be if I was to hear that was the new format for Trackmania Grandleague's playoff, I would be much more interested in it, to say the least.
Same.
Personally. But so I don't get sidetracked too much talking about, my ideas and stuff.
Well, actually, wait a minute. I just wanted to add something in, because I would really have a nice idea for an overlay. Imagine there's only 2 players left, and you have this PC overlay, and then let's say one player is 0.1 behind, and then you have like a red line behind him where it's like, to that region you can reach, absorbed by the kilometers per hour the first player drives through that corner or something like that. This would be such a nice idea for an overlay, but of course hard to do. But that was just an idea that I had. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Well, as there's a lot of capability for that. I think it's fair to say, a lot of potential, which I think would be very interesting. But not to kind of drag our feet too long talking about the adjustments for that. Also, as you were mentioning, there's going to be changes for the Combine. Now, just to read out exactly what Nadeo have said here. Now, they said the Combine format needed to be revised. We felt like it wasn't a qualification format, which obviously didn't fit with the idea of a Combine where 2 players would qualify to the most prestigious Trackmania event at the end. To improve upon this format, we decided to switch back to round mode and give the chance to 20 players instead of 8 from Open Grand League to try and qualify. Also, from now on, only the 4 bottom Trackmania Grand League players on the regular season ranking will be at risk. This head-to-head match will also be played by the best Open Grand League players from the winter 2021 season. There will now be an Open Grand League final and an Open Grand League semi-final to determine... Super final, pardon me, yeah. To determine who will play the head-to-head. The Open Grand League final will be players ranked from 5th to 20th place in Open Grand League. They will play an additional step without points loss, and the best 4 players qualify for the Super Final. And the Open Grand League Super Final will be players ranked from 1st to 4th place in Open Grand League will face the 4 best players from the Open Grand League Final in a series of 18 rounds, 3 rounds with 2 laps each without points loss. The 4 best players from this phase will qualify to the head-to-head phase. The head-to-head phase, the Open Grand League seeds will be defined by the Super Final. Trackmania Grand League seeds will be determined by the number of points won without points lost by the players throughout the TMGL season. This seeding is done on the players ranked between 13th and 16th place. Each match will be played in a best of 5, where each match will be played in a best of 5, where each map will be played in a best of 7, using the same rules as in the Trackmania Grand League, including the win by knockout, so the same rules as the final, basically. Winner of each match stays or gets promoted to Trackmania Grand League. The other player is either being relegated to Open Grand League or staying in Open Grand League. And the matchups will not be mixed. It will be Open Grand League against Open Grand League and Trackmania Grand League against Trackmania Grand League. So there will be guaranteed demotions and guaranteed promotion. So let me know your thoughts.
Actually, the first time I was like, okay, I was reading that. I was seeing OGL, TMGL, OGL, TMGL. I was like, okay, OGL playing against TMGL. But the first time you were really pointing that out, I was like, yeah, what? OGL plays against OGL and TMGL against TMGL. So this is guaranteed 2 spots and guaranteed 2 eliminations from 13th to 16th place. So 2 players are going out there. That is crazy. I have to say that. That is really crazy. Mm-hmm. I mean, for us as casters or for all the players or like watchers, whatever, it is getting really confusing now. Because, I mean, in my words, you have top 4, Trackmania Grand League. They are qualifying to the Super Final. Yes, the OGL seats will be determined by the Super Final. So top 1 to 4 will be playing the Super Final. And who's in the Super Final will be determined in the Open Grand League Final, where top 5 to top 20 will determine 4 spots. And then they will play against the top 4, again in this kind of round system without point loss. So they really want to see who's the most consistent player. And then the top 4 out of that will play in the head-to-head match. So that OGL plays against OGL and TMGL plays against TMGL in 2 matches. So first of this Super Final will play against 4th of the Super Final. So it could also be like, let's say, top 18 of the Open Grand League step, who has qualified to that and had a very, very good run. I mean, it's something you really have to read through because it's hard to explain. I kind of understand it now, but it's also like, you see it here like with the same rules as the TMGL, including win by KO. You really have to check then again, but it's really hard to understand. But what I really like is that 2 spots are in danger. But what I haven't understand quite yet is TMGL seats will be determined by the numbers of points won without point lost by the players throughout the TMGL season. So does it mean, let's say, I don't know, Bren has lost 300 points over the season and has finished 16th or something like that. Is he not playing this then? Because he has gotten the least amount of points? He won't play.
He will play it. So the way I understand it, you will have the bottom 4 people in position for Trackmania Grand League. They will be sent into this combine. Now, the seed that they are then will be determined by how much points they got in total throughout the season. So, Bren would have gained 300 points. He might have lost all of them, but he still got 300 points.
Yeah.
So he would be seeded first. Whereas even if, say, Mudda was in a higher position but gained less points, then he will still then he will be a higher seed than Mudder, for example.
So it will only occur to the players who are in 13th and 16th, the seeding. Okay,
So
then
they will definitely play the Combine, but the order in which they get seeded will be determined by how much points they had before they lost their point.
Okay, I see. But yeah, it will be spicy and also will create some rivalries between OGL, and then you're like, okay, TMGL and TMGL. Let's just say, I don't know, maybe Muda has practiced a lot with Riolu, and then they will play against each other. Let's just say that. This will create so much rivalry. And I think this format is good, but I'm not sure if, like OGL, because you could also have a bad day, but 18 rounds is so much. So I think actually that the format is better now because it really, it favors the consistent players to the point where you are in the final mode there again, or the win by KO. So I think it's good. And it's, again, something we really have to check out because it's something completely new. It's a complete new Combine because I really like the old Combine, I have to say. But definitely something we have to see. And also something I'm interested to play myself because top 20 is qualifying now, which is something for me that I could certainly reach, I would say. So it's getting interesting for me to maybe play for the OGL again, and maybe I get into the Trackmania Grandleague in season 4. Of course I won't, but why can't I try, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way to look at it. I mean, I don't know if I'll say something like, "Oh, I'll give it a try myself," but we'll see. I'll take it. I'll take a looky see. I'm dreading if it's going to be all ice maps, and I'll be like, "Oh my god," it's going to be a hell on wheels for me. But anyway, before I start chatting shit about all of that, first of all, I will say that I very much like this change. Now, I very much like the fact that you're going to be having more open Grand League players having an opportunity to fight for something. You're going to have more people who are going to be like, you're not going to be having, of course you will still have it in a sense, but you won't be having your people who are like 9th and 10th just missing out by a hair's breadth when they have performed extremely well. I think getting the top 20 in gives you a very wide berth of talent in Trackmania Grandleague, in the Combine, which I would definitely feel will lead to an exciting Combine. You're just having more people involved in general. You're not just seeing the same players playing different kind of formats and things like that. You're going to see a lot of players being involved, which is really nice. I'm interested to see how the prize pool will actually get done for Trackmania, for Open Grand League, if it's just the top 3 from the regular season, and then they get given the prize money before they even kind of go into Combine, for example. But as I was saying, I like the fact that there's more people involved. I like that the fact that the first to fourth place still gets rewarded in the sense that they get essentially further into the bracket, so to speak, if we look at it that way. It's going to be in rounds mode, which is interesting to say the least. And I'm not too sure how I feel about the 1v1s for getting your final spot, so to speak. It will be harder to kind of say. We'll kind of see that when it comes, so to speak. I must say, I know some people are kind of disagreeing in the chat, but I like that the fact that it's Open Grand League against Open Grand League to get promoted, and it's Trackmania Grand League against Trackmania Grand League to get demoted, because it felt like the Trackmania Grand League players, it felt like some of them were just putting in enough effort so that they would be able to defeat the Open Grand League players. And then it would go back to business as usual in Trackmania Grand League. It wouldn't be as meaningful for them. Whereas you had hungry Open Grand League players who were fighting very hard for their spots, but they didn't end up getting them despite putting in significantly more effort and perhaps having a bigger impact in the future season. Whereas you are going to have the hungriest people going through to this next season because they're going up against people who will be at a similar capacity to them. You will have Trackmania Grand League players going up against Trackmania Grand League players. We look at it last season. For example, you would have Bren and Riolu going against each other, and one of them would be eliminated. I fucking guarantee you will see a better Bren and Riolu than you would have during the Combine. If we look at this, I don't know, for example, Massa and Riolu. I guarantee you Massa would not be finishing in like 13th place then. obviously it's not going to be a format you could finish in 13th place, but I guarantee you they would be putting in more effort for a format like this, which I think promotes, which I think deals with a lot of the problems I had with the Combine last time. It enforces the players who will be involved in the Combine to put a lot more effort into actually staying in, and it represents a very real threat to those who are in Trackmania Grandleague. If they do eventually go into the Combine, they will have to go against players who are at a very equal level to them. And the same with Open Grandleague. It's by no means an easy ride in for them. Not that it ever was, of course, but it makes it more feasible, I would say. And I very much am interested in these changes. One thing throughout all of these changes, one thing I found very interesting, though, a kind of common theme throughout this. Now, to decide the seedings and to decide the later stages of this, they have took out points loss, which is, I think, is a very interesting precedent to set here.
Yeah.
Now, in 2 points, they've mentioned that. Now, in the Open Grand League Super Final, players ranked from 1st to 4th in Open Grand League will face the 4 best players from the Grand League Final in a series of 18 rounds without points loss. And the seedings for the Trackmania Grand League's players will be decided without points loss. Now, why are they doing that? Why are they deciding it without point loss? Is it then coming from the case where they think that without points loss better represents where these players should be seeded? Better represents whether or not these players should be going through to the next stage? Now, I know this is kind of looking a lot deeper into it, but that's the kind of impression I would get from it, that they're taking away points loss so they get a fairer representation of who should be going through and who should be seeded where. So the question then comes into me, if they're kind of almost pressing that kind of impression on the rest of us, why are they then using it for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I was thinking that as well.
Yeah, we've brought up our own arguments for why they use it besides that. They use it for an entertainment format, not because it's fair, of course. But that's just a little kind of tidbit that made me smile there. Is, it's almost as if they're saying, yes, we agree that this system is more fair, but we're still not going to use it,
Maybe they want to use it especially for this, I don't know, entertainment purpose or meta change, because I see 3 types of meta here, actually. Or only 2 now. It's the consistency game, or like a mixture between consistency and risk in the KO mode. And then we have the consistency mode in the 18 rounds or in the Open Grand League qualifier. But maybe they want to prevent complaining from the players, because maybe they can say, okay, I have practiced so much here, and when I lose my points on map number 6, I'm not making it into the top 4 or something like that. I don't know, but it's definitely weird, because we see so many different changes here, and this not feels like a complete season for me. They are jumping from this to that, then you have final mode, adjustment here, adjustment combine, adjustment prize money. Everywhere we have a kind of adjustment. Also, only in the thing that didn't work out that well, and that's the point system. And now we have the point system in the actual combine, which we all were waiting for. But I mean, in general, I'm really interested to see how it will work again, because I think last Trackmania Grand League season rules were way, way different than those here. So this is a way different Trackmania Grand League for me. And also, now Battle for 12 becomes interesting, and also who's gonna play against which player, what map will come up, how the maps will look, and also how the OGL will be accepted by the people, because now you can see, okay, maybe a top 20 player thinks I won't have a chance against someone like Coco or someone else, in the top 4, but maybe they just be motivated. I don't know, but yeah, to come back to your question, the point system, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because they want to prevent complaining and just take it for the actual thing. But we have so many different things in the Trackmania Grand League now. Or is it just my opinion? So many different things.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of parts to dissect in this, which I think will lead to, especially when the rules come out at some point next year, will lead to us having a bit of a deeper discussion on this. But I think it's only fair that we don't we don't dwell too much on this, as of course this is, as we've said before, the final episode of 2020.
Yeah, and we have to be positive.
Yeah, not even just that, but I mean, we can't sign off 2020 without even talking about 2020, which was at least supposed to be the main focus of this episode before we got sidetracked. But I mean, Trackmania Grandleague's always interesting talking, so to speak. But 2020, now, whenever I've been talking to people about this year, either regards to Trackmania or completely indifferent of Trackmania, I would say that the main feeling I've had from this year is this year feels like it's gone very fast and very slow at the same time.
Yeah, same actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's how this year feels. You know, both,
Same
as I said, in Trackmania terms, feels like Trackmania 2020 came out, well, new Trackmania, shall we say. I don't even know what to call it now. Feels like Trackmania came out like 3 years ago or something like that at this point. You know, it feels like it's just been out for ages, kind of thing. It feels like this year has went on so long, but also now that we're in December, we're in like almost the final week of the year. I'm like, where did it all go? You know, like it all just went so quickly. Anyway, yeah, talking about 2020, the start of the year, I mean, only the really fair part to start off with, it's almost weird to think that we'd heard about it, but we didn't even have to worry about the whole kind of COVID situation just yet. It wasn't on everyone's radars yet. You know, we weren't worrying about will this happen or will that happen or what's going to happen with this and so on and so forth. I mean, life was still continuing as normal in January. I would say it started to change in kind of February, March.
Or beginning of February.
Yeah, at least mindsets certainly started to change around, you know, questions started being raised in February, March and things like that. So, but Trackmania-wise, it has been a very interesting year. We've had a new game come out. We've had a lot of events, significant and, major and minor events, of course, this year. Had a lot of changes and had a lot of discussions, both, positive and both controversial. Is there any kind of points of this year? Because, I mean, I don't kind of want to take it chronologically because I feel like we're just going to end up, overlooking some things either, inadvertently. Give me some points from this year that have really kind of stuck out to you, that have really kind of remained in your mind. Any highlights or lowlights of this year for you?
So some highlights for me were definitely, actually, a thing that really was sticking out of my mind is the fact that Trackmania Grandleague, and with that OGL Season 1, is 1 year ago. That feels like forever for me. I was participating in that. I was playing with Virtual. I was playing in the top league. Like it's so uncomprehendable for me how the year has started for me and how it is ending. Because, I really stepped up as a caster. I stepped down from gaming. I'm casting more than I game. But, I was I was in the top match in Open Grand League. And this is something that I not understand, because I think I actually got worse in Trackmania over this year. But one highlight about this year. Do you mean like competition wise, or what do you mean?
Just anything that if you think say if I say to you 2018, what happened in Trackmania, what would you say to me, for example? And 2020, what happened in Trackmania for you?
Yeah, I think a manifestation of the whole community and also a move over. And a little bit, it feels like from now on, people are accepting the new game. It feels like it's not being super, super critical now, because they see that they are making progress. So I would say actually it is, the word for me is progress, but also a missed shot that Trackmania could have become a very good title with a lot of new players. So it is both good and bad on a note, because Trackmania was needing a new game, but I think if the game was released, maybe the game was released too early. I don't know. Maybe. We don't know, but I mean, it's good to have that. But it felt super, super fast when the game was coming out. Then we had the Enduro Cup, then Trackmania Grandleague. That felt like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then September was coming in. Okay, we had Kaki, but then so many events were coming. And so many people were actually participating in them. So that was kind of the acceptance of the game, and I think that's pretty good. And yeah, I mean, it's both half a year, and I definitely think that we cannot really say that, but I think that the second half of the year feels, of course, longer for me because, I mean, I'm still living in that, but it was way more diverse for me to say like that in the new game.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, my kind of feeling overall from this year is, I mean, it's weird to think that for half of the year we didn't actually have the new game. You know, it's weird to think that the game's only been out, a few months now. But the main kind of feeling I get is I feel like imagine being on a path, so to speak. It felt like at the point we were at in Trackmania 2 Stadium, in the recent years we'd taken a few steps back. It felt like, when there was a lot of instability issues which prevented, the working of a lot of events and things like that. Like, the 24-hour race, PEC didn't work, if I remember right. There was a lot of issues created in Trackmania 2 Stadium. Now, how I feel about the new game, I feel like the new game is going to take many more steps forward from where Trackmania 2 Stadium was. But it felt like to do that, it had to take a few steps back. It was a game that got released to... I feel like a lot of anticipation for this game, but I feel like it is a game which has not lived up to a lot of expectations. It is a game which is still having issues to the point we're at now. Then that's to be expected. We see the most anticipated game, almost of all time, and Cyberpunk come out still broken, and that's a massively bigger company than Nadeo, or a massively bigger whatever you would call it. I don't know.
Good example though.
Yeah, but Cyberpunk's came out. Cyberpunk was broken. Cyberpunk needs to be fixed. Cyberpunk was getting pulled from PlayStation Store because it was that broken. Now, I think that's not exactly like a one-to-one example, but Trackmania was released and it was a broken game. I mean, I am happy that it was released, but the Trackmania did not work. We saw that when we were seeing things like trying to spectate Zerator Cup. One of my best clips, or one of my most popular clips throughout this year, was regarding the desync bugs that we were having, which was making tournament watching impossible. You couldn't watch tournaments because all you had were the names at the bottom of the screen to be able to tell who was actually in the lead. We had a lot of trouble regards to some features that were promised initially which still haven't got added, and in some cases only just got added. We've got things that were in the game that have then since been removed. Either, the names customization, which has become a particularly hot topic recently. Also things like the issues with the cars on the cars on delays, which a lot of people complain about. Now, this isn't a point for me to start shitting on the game or anything like that. I anticipate that the game is going to improve, and is going to improve upon a point further on than what Trackmania 2 Stadium reached. But it feels like we've taken a few steps back. That's been my kind of general feeling, my general lasting impression of Trackmania from 2020. That's been my impression of it. Is I feel like we have taken steps back, and the game is not in as good a place at this point of the year as I would have hoped. However, I believe it will be in a better place by this time next year. That's the kind of general feeling I get from when I would describe my Trackmania experience in 2020. Has still been enjoyable, but I think it would have been. I would have hoped for it to have been in a better place by this point this year.
Yeah, I mean, I remember us actually, and Eric was here as well, where we talked about when the new game was coming out, just before the podcast, we were like thinking, oh, what will happen? We were so filled with excitement, and now we're sitting here, almost 6 months after the release, from the new game, and we're like, okay, it kind of worked, but we had to take steps back. And yeah, what my perception was to end it all off with Trackmania 2, I think we had a lot of very good events actually ending off the game with the Game World Cup, with all the new organizations coming into the game because of new people, and also like ending of eras, like from Hero to Zero, the last
from Zero to Hero.
Yeah. Didn't I say that? Or?
Hero to Zero.
Oh, yeah, maybe. But yeah, I mean, they went from Hero to Zero because they're not. But yeah, sometimes I'm using that. But sorry to, got confused by that. But also the ending of TTC, like all those things that didn't move to the new game, but also the things that have moved to the new game with Game World Cup, with Solary Cup, all the things. So we have a little bit of a shift in Trackmania from that kind of old school-ish phase to the new game, and also the acceptance in that. We have the daily incentive now, but else to that, you cannot really do that much instead of practicing for competitions or play other maps. So we really need more casual modes in Trackmania, but we are on a good way. And that's also my impression that I have, that we are on a good way in Trackmania. And I have a good feeling about the game in 2021. It could definitely be a good year for Trackmania here, I think. And I hope that something like matchmaking will come, and I hope that also sufficient players will be in there, and that I'm not always playing against you or someone like that, because or MMR is just or rank is just so similar. But I hope that something like this will work, because this is definitely what Trackmania is deserving, if you ask me. It's a good racing game, but the kind of how to say that. Innovation is missing. Yeah, the innovation is missing a bit here. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the point we're at is still a good point. I mean, we've still had a lot to talk about this year. We've had a lot of interesting events. We've had a lot of interesting developments and all the rest of that. It has been an interesting year in Trackmania in a good way, of course. We've had a lot of events to talk about. We've had Trackmania Grandleague. We've had Enduro Cup. We've had all the rest of these events, which have been very interesting. Had a lot of smaller scale events as well. A lot of kind of development in the likes of, the Cup of the Day features, the likes of Track of the Day that have been interesting. New campaigns, which some people are enjoying, of course. And a lot that's been brought into the game in the new Trackmania, which has been a positive feature overall. A lot, creative capability. We've seen some of the creations people have managed to do as a result of new capabilities that they have, of course. Even just the simple additions of things like, the ice surf, things like the reactor boosts and so on. Your different kinds of blocks and different kinds of capabilities. So there has been more added to Trackmania this year, but it's going to take a little bit more time for the game to be polished to a point where I think it will be at a place where a lot of people will be much more satisfied with it. I think that's very fair to say. There is still some people grumbling about things that they're missing out or things that they're not happy is not part of it. Like, as I was saying, which was a bit of a hot topic recently, about the, resurfacing at the very least about the fact that the name change was not possible as of the moment, and it seemed to be was not a planned possibility, at least in the near future. So, yeah, I mean, there is still going to be people that are going to be grumbling about things like that. But the way I feel at this point of the year is there's certainly a lot less grumbling than there was at the start of its kind of release cycle, so to speak, which I think I think is always going to be the most important thing for a new game being released. As you look at, are less people complaining about it than they were when we first brought it out? And I think that's a very good way to put it, cousin. It feels like the game is going in the right direction, but it does still feel like it's got a long road to go. I think that encapsulates my feeling of it relatively well. But not just to talk about Trackmania in general. Now, there has been a lot of events this year, a lot of events from head to toe, coming through this year from start to finish. And it might be a bit difficult, especially if you're normally voting in the Trackmania Awards, to remember anything further than 2 months ago. But if we take the whole of 2020, what kind of events would you say have stood out most to you? Is there any in particular that really stick in your mind from this year? You know, you were talking like Trackmania Grand League Winter Edition was, you know, a year ago, as you put it there. When you look back on the events of Trackmania 2020, are you looking at events that you remember that you enjoyed through this year, or are you looking maybe the events that didn't happen this year that you perhaps missed, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I really missed something like the Rater Cup, to have this kind of motivation for me, like in 2019, where I was really tryharding and go to that event. So I'm missing really the LAN events that were not happening this year. That is what I was really missing. And I mean, yeah, I mean, something. I mean, that was coming in the like in the next year, team competitions like CPS, like TTCS, those competitions. I was really missing those kind of casual gameplay. We only had this professional gameplay in Trackmania 2 by the looks of it. And then we had a lot of really innovative competitions with new point systems, with like cup mode where 2 out of 3 players have to make it from a team. So like crazy ideas, and also the final mode. So those things, I think I would describe it by going more experimental. I would have, I missed this in Trackmania 2 to get the prior half a year back. But events that really stood out for me, maybe like, I mean, I can only speak for a casting point of view, really. But I mean, I've played some cups as well. So for me, it was the Flash Cup, where I was in the semifinal, but I was beaten by Afi, unfortunately. And I cannot do something against that. I had a lot of fun as well participating in that event to see where my maximum is. I qualified to the top 16 at least. That was cool. But also, like, casting wise, it was probably the French regionals and also all the events with Tycoons. Then also the from Hero to Zero, no, from Zero to Hero competition. And also, what else was a good competition? Maybe the Game World Cup with Eric, which I casted on his birthday. But we had so many good competitions at the end of the game, it felt like. We had the Centauri Cup, we had the Gaming Privé Cup, we had the Game World Cup, we had Game World Cup 2, so many sick cups, really. That is incredible. And I think this was the most stacked month, like May, June, to that part, where we had sick competitions in there. So I'm not missing a lot, only the kind of the creativity from the community in the first half of the year, because it felt like Trackmania was like, okay, a new game is coming out, what, just gonna make it here, just another competition, and not try to innovate stuff, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of was concerned when I heard the new game came out, because I thought that would lead to things maybe slowing down a little bit on the old game. But looking back on it, I mean, we still had, as you exactly said there, from Zero to Hero, we still had the 24-hour race, as far as I'm aware, was hosted early this year, albeit had to get cancelled midway through due to some big instabilities. But we still had a lot of events at the early part of this year. As you're talking, you know, things like, you know, the Gaming Preview Cup, you know, PK ARC was coming in the early part of the new Trackmania's lifespan, and of course the Century Cup is exactly you're mentioning there, the Solary Cup and so on, as you talk about. I mean, there has been a lot of interesting events this year. My particular one standing out is always going to be, of course, from Zero to Hero.
Yeah.
You know, from participating in that, and also, which I felt was one of my favourite casts for the events I've done just in general, was the one of which I done with Eirik and Kappa through the winner bracket of From Zero to Hero. And also enjoyed playing in it quite a lot. You know, I played some good matches, I played some bad matches, you know, just the way it goes for me in tournaments pretty much. But I still enjoyed the tournament. I enjoyed training for the tournament. It was a big highlight for me. And yeah, there was a lot of other events. Of course, there was a Zerator Cup, which I guess there was excitement about just simply for the fact it was a Zerator Cup, but also that it was the first, you know, mainstream event that was going to be hosted in the new game. But one of the things that I've missed out on this year, if I can call it that, and Eirik mentioned it there, and I certainly agree with him, is that I've not had a Trackmania meetup this year, and that's the first time I've not had that since 2015, actually. So the first time I've not met Trackmania people since 2015, and it feels like quite a I mean, not just because obviously whenever I met them I was on a holiday, so to speak, but I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed my time I spent away with meeting Trackmania people, and I've not had the opportunity to do that this year, which has been quite a big disappointment for me. But obviously, that's got nothing to do with the Trackmania game itself. That's of course due to that's due to what's happened, globally with the coronavirus and so on. But yeah, I mean, that's been a big omission from this year from me. No LAN events, of course, outside of one which I've not actually mentioned, which was along with Trackmania Grandleague Winter Edition, which was the Leon Esports, which was a very interesting event for me. Very interesting in the sense that not only for those who were playing it, because it was a very weird kind of participants list for that. Pardon me. But
and
also
Peck brought his laptop. That's good.
Yeah.
Maybe you remember that's on the cheat.
Yeah. But also on the other side of things with who was participating, but also the fact that you had people participating in 2 tournaments in one weekend,
Yeah.
So it wasn't just you look at the participants list and see like Carl Jr. there, like, oh, he's going to win hands down. Like, no, he wasn't going to. He wasn't sure to win hands down because, he wasn't sure. He was going to be training Trackmania Grandleague, for example. So very interesting few weeks there, especially for that tournament, and that was a very well run tournament, I'd say, of Leon Esports. Also casted the full start and finish of that, if I remember right. I'm not entirely sure. It's been quite a long time ago. But yeah, it was a very interesting start of the year. I think From Zero to Hero was a perfect way to see off Trackmania 2 Stadium. And also coming into the new game, we spoke a little bit about it earlier, how, not entirely were our expectations met. There was a few things that, a few teething issues and things like that. But I think overall, this has been a decent year for Trackmania in general. There's been a lot to talk about. Not always has it been good, but I suppose you could say, like, no publicity is bad publicity in a way. As long as Trackmania has given us something to talk about, which, we are a talk show, by definition, that is good for us. But yeah, outside of, we've talked about the things that have stood out to us, things we've remembered fondly and so on, apart from me talking about the omissions of omissions of things we missed, is there anything throughout this year that stuck out as a particular low light to you? A particularly, a part of this year, Trackmania-wise, that you would wish to have forgotten?
So first of all, you were mentioning LES, and also you were mentioning the Trackmania Grandleague playoffs. So first of all, this for me was the turning point of the year, where it was really getting very, very into my mind that it's like, okay, so coronavirus is real now. We have to do something against that. And I was remembering, I was sitting with my sister who was not feeling good. She was sleeping. I was drinking beer in the hotel room, in a very shitty hotel room in London. And my sister felt super bad. I was getting drunk there because I was watching Trackmania Grandleague playoffs final. That was really good. Also very nice cast. But this for me was the turning point of the year, kind of. And I mean, a little bit a start of the downfall, or of the negative parts in Trackmania. Because what I've also really missed is the part, really, the Trackmania meetups. But I think, ironically, I've met so many people this year in Trackmania. So because in Germany we have the luxury that people like Lars, people like Marius, Riolu, and those people, they live really close to me. And in every kind of break in between Corona, where we didn't have restrictions, we were making something. We went karting, I think 3 times this year. We went for a burger or stuff, just spend time together. And I mean, besides of traveling to somewhere, let's say Amsterdam or Budapest, I think I've made everything. But I really miss this kind of Prague vibe, because I think this was probably the best meeting that I've had in Trackmania. And it was because of all the people were so nice and stuff like that. Everyone was super nice there. And I really miss that. I really have to say that. Of course, meeting the boys, which are my friends, of course, and I'm also playing Cup of the Day with them. It's cool, and I'm meeting them, but I've also liked to meet people that it's something special, you know, that I meet someone like Paul again in 1.5 years, and we can just talk about everything and stuff like that. That is what I want to do as well, you know, stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, that's like the only negative part for me. And yeah, else the year for me was a huge success, actually. I mean, I was nominated for Caster of the Year. I was putting in a lot of effort into casting, a lot of effort. And I think for me it was good, but I'm not sure what 2021 will bring us. So yeah, hopefully we can also meet up there and we can make something, because I hope that it will just happen, because I want to go to Thailand next year. I want to go to Amsterdam, you know. I want to go there pretty bad, actually.
Yeah. I think that's just a kind of general feeling for a lot of people, in the sense that, you know, they want to go and do something. You know, it's been so long that people have not had the luxury to be able to travel and go on a holiday, but also in the sense where you're just kind of thinking to yourself, like, not only can I not go on a holiday, but even if you could, should you? You know, you're worried. You know, there's a lot of kind of anxiety and things like that, which I think is a feeling which hopefully people will not have to worry about as much next year, and should be, hopefully by this time next year, be a thing of the past. But talking about, I feel it's only kind of fair to round off our episode today before we send everyone to, you know, into 2021 by talking about 2021. Looking forward to next year, looking forward to, you know, making some predictions, perhaps. You know, what do we think is going to happen in 2021? And I think it's only fair that I kind of start us off there, since I'm always kind of throwing you the bat straight away. But 2021, what does that mean to me? What do I expect from 2021? Now, we spoke a little bit about 2021, I think last week, and we kind of asked ourselves the question, do we expect a LAN event return in 2021? And I think that we will see a gradual restore to normality from the coronavirus, but I don't think we're going to see as much of that in 2021. I think if people are thinking, oh, we're going to go back, we're going to have Gamers Assembly, Game of Winter Fest, Enduro Cup, blah, 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 blah. We're going to have all of these next year, you're having a fucking laugh. It's not going to happen next. You know, some of it will. You know, some of it might happen, like, you know, some events later on this year. That's the impression I'm getting from how the world's kind of handling this situation. But to harp on to one of my points I was talking earlier about the game, I feel like Trackmania is at the stage where it does have a long path ahead of it, but I think 2021 is where it takes significant strides down that path. This is the year where I expect improvements to be made. I don't expect to be sitting here next year, pardon me, and still having people complaining about the fact that they turn cars on and they still can't see where everyone is. I don't expect next year to be in the same kind of place where people are complaining about the same kind of problems that have been in the game. I don't want this Trackmania to fall into the same cycle which the others have. We think of, when we talk about Trackmania Nation, think about when we talk about Trackmania 2 Stadium. We would talk about Trackmania 2 Stadium and we would be like, oh, this bug's been in the game forever. You know, this has been in the game forever. That's been in the game forever. I don't want that to be the case for this new game. Yeah. And we have seen through the tendencies, we have got a lot more communication from Nadeo and from representatives of Nadeo throughout this year. So hopefully there will be a lot more transparency on what will be happening and what won't be happening. So at the very least, even if we won't have a smile on our face at the end of next year, we'll at least know where we stand, which I think is the very most important thing for the direction this game is going in, which I feel has been a really good thing about this year, especially with the new game coming. We've had more communication than we've been having throughout the past years, so we know where we stand. We know what to expect coming from this game. They've told us they're not going to be implementing the new... they're not going to be implementing the custom names anytime soon. Sure, we can complain about that, but at least we know that. You know, we didn't know if they were going to be ever, fixing some of the problems with Trackmania 2 Stadium. We didn't know that because they didn't really tell us that, you know? So I feel like this is a kind of important step is to keep up this kind of communication. How and one of the things which I did talk a lot about, or not a lot about, but one of the things which I'm most looking forward to as a question for next year is it's going to be the first phase, or the first major phase, which Trackmania is going to be up for renewal. It's going to be the first phase where, of course, there would have been a lot of people around at the start of this year who would have got subscriptions, either for the Club Edition, either for the Standard Edition. Not all of those people are going to be here. Not all of those people are going to be buying the same editions. You know, not all of those people who bought Club are going to buy Club again. Not all those people who bought Standard are going to buy Standard again. But also, people are going to have came into this game during this period of time who might be thinking of upgrading, who might be thinking of changing their edition. So I think that the amount of people who bought the 1 year subscription is, because Cousins mentioned there about the club access, that what I was just going to say there, I think a lot more people bought 1 year of club access than bought 3 years of club access. I
bought
so.
3 years.
Yeah, I know a good amount of people did do 3 years, but I think the majority would have done 1 year. Anyway, regardless, there's still going to be a sizable amount of people who will be renewing their subscriptions, either through Standard or either through clubs. That's going to be the point of year I think there's going to be the most discussion about Trackmania. That's what I'm looking at for next year. That's what I'm very interested to see. What are Trackmania going to be? Because, you know, it goes without saying, that's when we're going to see the most kind of activity coming out from this game. Because that's when they're going to be trying to convince people to subscribe. Yep. You know, that's just, you know, basic business when you're talking about subscription and things like that. You're going to hype up the release of a new game when it's coming out, of course. You're not going to be like making a lot of fuss about a new game coming out and then stop talking about it and then still expect people to buy it. You know, it's one of those kind of ones. But anyway, that's what I'm looking at for next year. That's my kind of talking points for next year. Also, how, of course, this new Trackmania Grandleague system is going to work. But what does 2021 mean to you? What are you kind of looking at for next
year? Yeah, especially how matchmaking will be accepted. And maybe, I mean, when I think about a game this way, I mean, you have a game coming out, maybe you played it or so, maybe just a normal version, but I hope that they're gonna make a little bit more publicity, like more work for the people that are having or that have played the game somewhere, and that they know, okay, matchmaking is up there, that they implement it properly, you know, that they are proper, that they're implementing it properly, and that they have it on the radar, that they know that they have to do it that way because this is what people are in need of, you know. And well, I mean, I think Trackmania has so much potential, and I hope that, or I think that they most likely gonna use it, this potential. And yeah, also the question here, how likely is it that TM Scotsman and LuckersTurbo is around in this year? I think, I mean, this podcast, I mean, Trackmania, for me, I played Trackmania for 12 years, so doing year number 13, probably. But yeah, what will Trackmania bring to me? Of course, the renewal thing will be important, but we're gonna see it as a Raid 2 Cup. We're gonna see all those competitions that you have named before that as well. They will happen, but I think they will happen offline. Maybe we're gonna see some new events, maybe some new LAN events, but I doubt that because it will be really hard to implement that. Not sure how the veteran is going or the whole Corona stuff. We're gonna see that, so it is definitely something interesting. Cup of the Day will solidify like maybe like 500 to 1,000 players each day. That will be super good. And yeah, I don't know. Else with that, about me, I'm not sure if I can cast that much concerning to my study, but I'm trying to. I really put in a lot of effort, but of course, casting is very, very exhausting to do, and preparing and stuff like that. You know that as well. I'm not sure how much I will cast. I'm trying my best, but not every weekend because I need a Saturday and a Sunday free time as well. Because it's, I mean, when I didn't cast one Sunday, I was like, huh? What? Like, I was constantly hitting the streaming button every Sunday. And it's like, it's crazy. And you probably know that as well from this year, maybe the beginning of that, because you stepped down a little bit, but you were, of course, covering competitions as well. But yeah, I just hope that the game will develop in a good way. And I think that will be, but yeah. I also think that we're going to sit here in 1 year and going to talk about that exact same topic.
Yeah, I think we will be here at this point next year. You know, if it'll be the exact same format, if it'll just be us two sitting here talking shit, you know,
maybe
who
someone
knows?
Else. Someone completely new who hasn't joined the game yet. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you never know where we're going to be in 1 year's time, and I think that's always going to be the perennial question. And it's nice to kind of theorize about what might happen and where we might be by this point next year. But I think we'll be in a good place next year. But one thing, at the very least, to say, 2021 will include Let's Talk Trackmania. That's going to happen. This might be the last talk show of this year, as we will be taking a little bit of a break next week. It will feel so weird having a Tuesday evening, and not doing this. It really will. I'm really not sure how I'm going to deal with that. But anyway,
spontaneous drinking edition. Hello.
Oh, here we go. A drunk Let's Talk Trackmania. We'll definitely need Eric back for that.
Patreon.
Yeah. Hello. But anyway, yeah. So we're definitely going to be here at the start of next year, 2021. We'll of course, talk a little bit earlier on the likes of Twitter and social medias and such about what we're perhaps going to be talking about. But as always, do you have any suggestions as to what you would like us to be addressing at the start of next year? Of course, there has been some more information that came out today regarding things like matchmaking, but we'll of course get to that in a later episode. But yeah, I think it's only fair to round off this year's Let's Talk Trackmanias here with a big thank you. A big thank you, first of all, to two people who are no longer part of the podcast, and that is Mr. G Geek and that is Mr. Eric Holdall. A big thank you to those guys, of course, for being part of the project at the start. I wasn't the one who started this off, albeit as a founding member of it, however, but having been involved in it from day dot. Also for Nathan for being involved in the early graphic work and helping it a lot with that. Mizu for helping a little bit in the social side of things when Eric and such was still part of the podcast. And also, I would say the biggest thanks, at the very least recently, does go to Mr. Erwin Weber. Although you do not hear him and you do not see him, all that is brought to you are lovely faces, your lovely visuals on the screen, and the stream itself is being handled by the man behind the screen, Mr. Erwin Weber. A big thanks to him, and his absence is sorely missed, as you did see last week, of course. But yeah, it was a big thank you to him, of course, for being involved. And also a big thank you, of course, to the ESAC, which is bringing this podcast by virtue of Erwin and, of course, myself being part of ESAC. And a reminder, of course, I mean, it might be Christmas time and we might be signing off for 2020, but ESAC is not going anywhere either. There will be tournaments happening going into the new year, and you can find out more about them on esac.gg, and it will be bringing you these podcasts going into 2021 as well. It will be my pleasure, along with Erwin's, and perhaps, who knows, we'll get some other people involved in 2021. Some new projects, some new interesting ideas. And last but certainly not least of what I've got to mention so far is that the map submissions for 2021's first competitive open map pool will be ending on the 24th of December at when the bell strikes 12 p.m. or 12 a.m., whatever it actually works out at, and we turn into Christmas Day. So get your maps in if you are interested, and look forward to the new map pack being released on the 1st of January. But that is pretty much all I had in the tank for everyone I had to thank. I've probably forgotten quite a lot of people there. But I will leave the signing off of 2020's Let's Talk Trackmania to the beautiful man to my left or right.
Yeah, I mean, how the Let's Talk Trackmania was going on for me, there was Barrydog who actually said to me, "Yo, Turbo, there's a podcast going on. You should check that out." And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Let's Talk Trackmania. And I was like, I'm not sure how we did that, but I was not really asking you guys to join in, but you were like, okay, you can join in, because Geek was like stressed out with some other things or was having other things to cover. And then I just joined in the podcast. And I think it has become a ritual to have this podcast every Tuesday. And for me, it works out pretty nice. And I really like talking about the game that I already play for 12 years now. This is just incredible to think of. Imagine I'm 23 years old and I'm playing this game for 12 years. I mean, with some breaks, of course, but it's the passion. And I think without this game and without this community, I would not play video games at all at the moment. So I can only say thank you to all of the people who were supporting me and us over this year, watching this podcast, watching our streams or the cast or whatever. Because without you, we would probably not make that, because we're not doing it for no one, right? So big thanks to you guys. And I'm again really looking forward to 2021, but I can almost ensure you that we will definitely talk here. If it's not about Trackmania, then about other things here. I don't know, but I mean, we get along together very well. You can see that, and it's a lot of fun to just join here every Tuesday. It's really a lot of fun, and we are done with 25 editions, so that is crazy. Half a year of podcasts, and definitely more to come with that. And also thanks to you, of course, Paul, for carrying the podcast with the introduction and stuff like that. Pats on back, of course. And also thanks to you, Erwin, also streaming it all the time. And then also, of course, thanks to Nathan for providing the graphics. So I'm just repeating myself here, but I mean, there is not more people who are involved with that. And then, of course, also thanks to Eric and also Mizo, who were partaking in this podcast, Mizo behind the scenes. And of course, Geek as well, who has done a fantastic job. But I think with that, we're going to send you to bed. It's a bit weird because, I mean, it's the last episode of this year, but it comes to an end now. But we're going to see you in 2 weeks' time. Guys, enjoy your Christmas holidays. Go good into the next year. Don't get Corona. Stay healthy. And hopefully 2021 will be a way better year. And all your things will come true. So thanks for watching, and we're gonna see you next year.